Hi, my name is Andaiye Spencer, um, and I went to Shaynolds Elementary School and University of Michigan and Eastern Michigan University and the University of Exeter. I currently work for Bright Futures after school programs. I work at Perry Early Learning Center, and I'm going to work at Estabrook. And I really like to travel a lot. I've been to over over 15 countries. I think my number is 17 different countries all over the world, and I do fun stuff with kids, and I get to meet people. Even if I don't get to go to a country, I tend to try to meet people from other countries. And this story is an African tale based on a story from Zimbabwe, and I got to meet a lot of people from Zimbabwe, and it is also the author, John Steptoe, dedicated it to the people of South Africa. And that is one of the places I always wanted to go, and I met a lot of people there, so now I have friends from both those places. This is a book I got when I was a little girl, called Mufaro's Beautiful Daughters, an African Tale by John Steptoe. A long time ago, in a certain place in Africa, a small village lay across a river, a half a day's journey from the city where a great king lived. A man named Mufaro lived in this village with his two daughters, who were called Manyara and Nayasha. Everyone agreed that Manyada and Nayasha were very beautiful. Manyara was almost always in a bad temper. She teased her sister whenever their father's back was turned. She had been heard to say, "Someday, Nayasha, I will be queen and you will be a servant in my household." "If that should come to pass," Nayasha responded, "I will be pleased to serve you. But why do you say such things? You are clever and strong and beautiful. Why are you so unhappy?" "Because everyone talks about how kind you are, and they praise everything you do," Manyara replied. "I am certain that Father loves you best. But when I am queen, everyone will know that your silly kindness is only weakness." Nayasha was sad that Manyara felt this way, but she ignored her sister's words and went about her chores. Nayasha kept a small plot of land on which she grew millet, sunflowers, yams, and vegetables. She always sang as she worked, and some said it was her singing that made her crops more bountiful than anyone else's. One day, Nayasha noticed a small garden snake resting beneath a yam vine. "Good day, little Nayoka," she called to him. "You are welcome here. You keep away any creatures who might spoil my vegetables." She bent forward and gave the little snake a loving pat on the head, and then returned to her work. From that day on, Nayoka was always at Nayasha's side when she tended her garden. It was said that she sang all the more sweetly when he was there. Mufaro knew nothing of how Manyara treated Nayasha. Nayasha was too considerate of her father's feelings to complain, and Manyara was always careful to behave herself when Mufaro was around. Early one morning, a messenger from the city arrived. The great king wanted a wife. The most worthy and beautiful daughters in the land are invited to appear before the king, and he will choose one to become queen, the messenger proclaimed. Mufaro called Manyara and Nayasha to him. "It would be a great honor to have one of you chosen," he said. "Prepare yourselves to journey to the city. I will call together all of our friends to make a wedding party. We will leave tomorrow as the sun rises." "But father," Manyara said sweetly, "it would be painful for either of us to leave you, even to be wife to the king. I know Nayasha would grieve to death if she were parted from you. I am strong. Send me to the city. Let poor Nayasha be happy here with you." Mufaro beamed with pride. "The king has asked for the most worthy and most beautiful. No, Manyara, I cannot send you alone. Only the king can choose between two such worthy daughters. Both of you must go. That night, when everyone was asleep, Manyara stole quietly out of the village. She had never been to the forest at night before, and she was frightened. But her greed to be the first to appear before the king drove her on. In her hurry, she almost stumbled over a small boy who suddenly appeared standing in the path. "Please," said the boy, "I am hungry. Will you give me something to eat?" "I have brought only enough for myself," Manyara replied. "But please," said the boy, "I am so very hungry." "Out of my way, boy. Tomorrow I will become your queen. How dare you stand in my path?" After traveling for what seemed to be a great distance, Manyara came to a small clearing. There, silhouetted against the moonlight, was an old woman seated on a large stone. The old woman spoke. "I will give you some advice, Manyara. Soon after you pass the place where the two paths cross, you will see a grove of trees. They will laugh at you. You must not laugh in return. Later you will meet a man with his head under his arm. You must be polite to him." "How do you know my name? How dare you advise your future queen? Stand aside, you ugly old woman," Manyara scolded, and then rushed on her way without looking back. Just as the old woman had foretold, Manyara came to a grove of trees, and they did indeed seem to be laughing at her. "I must be calm," Manyara thought. "I will not be frightened." She looked up at the trees and laughed out loud. "Ha! I laugh at you, trees!" she shouted, and then she hurried on. It was not yet dawn when Manyara heard the sound of rushing water. The river must be up ahead, she thought. The great city is just on the other side. There on the rise, she saw a man with his head tucked under his arm. Manyara ran past him without speaking. "A queen acknowledges only those who please her," she said to herself. "I will be queen, I will be queen," she chanted as she hurried toward the city. Nayasha woke at first dawn. She put on her finest garments. She thought of how her life might be changed forever by this day. "I'd much prefer to live here," she admitted to herself. "I'd hate to leave this village and never see my father or sing to little Nayoka again." Her thoughts were interrupted by loud shouts and commotion from the wedding party assembled outside. Manyara was missing. Everyone bustled about, searching and calling for her. When they found her footprints on the path that led to the city, they decided to go on as planned. As the wedding party moved through the forest, brightly plumed birds darted about on the cool green shadows beneath the trees. Though anxious about her sister, Nayasha was soon filled with excitement about all there was to see. They were deep in the forest when she saw a small boy standing on the side of the path. "You must be hungry," she said, and handed him a yam she had brought for her lunch. The boy smiled and disappeared as quietly as he had come. Later they were approaching the place where the two paths crossed. The old woman appeared and silently pointed the way to the city. Nayasha thanked her and gave her a small pouch filled with sunflower seeds. The sun was high in the sky when the party came to the grove of towering trees. The uppermost branches seemed to bow down to Nayasha as she passed beneath them. At last someone announced they were near their destination. Nayasha ran ahead and topped the rise before the others could catch up. She stood transfixed at her first sight of the city. "Oh, my father," she called. "A great spirit must stand guard here. Just look at what lies before us. I never in my life dreamed that there could be anything so beautiful." Arm in arm, Nayasha and her father descended the hill, crossed the river, and approached the city gate. Just as they entered through the great doors, the air was rent by piercing cries, and Manyara ran wildly out of the chamber at the center of the enclosure. When she saw Nayasha, she fell upon her, sobbing, Do not go to the king, my sister. Oh, please, father, do not let her go, she cried hysterically. There is a great monster there, a snake with 5 heads. He said that he knew all my faults and that I displeased him. He would have swallowed me alive if I had not run. Oh, my sister, please do not go inside that place. It frightened Nayasha to see her sister so upset. But leaving her father to confront Manyara, she bravely made her way to the chamber and opened the door. Oh. On the seat of the great chief's stool lay the little garden snake. Nayasha laughed with relief and joy. My little friend, she exclaimed. It's such a pleasure to see you. But why are you here? I am the king, Nayoka replied. And there before Nayasha's eyes, the garden snake changed shape. I am the king. I am also the hungry boy with whom you shared a yam in the forest, and the old woman to whom you made a gift of sunflower seeds. But you know me best as Nayoka, because I have been all of these. I know you to be the most worthy and most beautiful daughter in the land. It would make me very happy if you would be my wife. And so it was that a long time ago, Nayasha agreed to be married. The king's mother and sisters took Nayasha to their house, and the wedding preparations began. The best weavers in the land laid out their finest cloth for her wedding garments. The villagers from all around were invited to the celebration, and the great feast was held. Nayasha prepared the bread for the wedding feast from millet that had been brought from her village. Mufaro proclaimed to all who would hear him that he was the happiest father in all the land, for he was blessed with 2 beautiful and worthy daughters, Nayasha the queen, and Manyara, a servant in the queen's household. The end.